is overtime here again at Old Favorite Friday, and as always, we are at Barrel of Monks Brewing. We are talking about a great classic beer. I am joined by my partner and brewmaster, Bill McPhee. Bill, you are the Belgian beer guru here, right? You love all different beer styles. You're a master of all different beer styles, but I usually bring you in to talk about classic Belgian beer styles because it's kind of your forte, the thing you're most passionate about. Throwing you for a little bit of a loop here, because we're doing Lion Stout, which is a beer from Sri Lanka. It's been around for a long time. It's kind of a deep cut, 8.8% stout. I mean, borderline Imperial Stout. I mean, some people would say it's an Imperial Stout by 8.8%. Someone actually recommended this beer, but I had this many times back in the day. It's been quite a while. I kind of assumed that you'd never had it.
That's actually right. I've never had this beer before.
So I wanted you to try it. I wanted to get a sense of Imperial Stouts and stuff in general from you, because it's a style that we don't talk about very often. We make an Imperial Stout here that we're both very proud of. So, what are your first instincts when you try this beer? What are you tasting? What are you thinking?
So let's have a sip and let you know. It has a very nice aroma. You definitely get the malt character coming off the aroma. And then the flavor is surprisingly dry. And as you know, from my taste preferences, I love drier beers, especially when you come to a stronger beer like a stout. I think when you have a lot of excess residual sugars in a beer, it sits heavy on your mouth, heavy on your stomach. It just doesn't ever go as well for me. And this dries out nice. It's got a nice roast profile without being acrid or burnt. And I think it's a very well balanced, very, very well done beer.
I'm picking up like a nuttiness on the palate a little bit. I'm getting some subtle vanilla notes, some subtle caramel notes. This is a really nice beer, and I think I've been sipping this a little bit longer than you have. So it definitely is one of those beers, and I know it's kind of overused, but it does unlock the flavors as you sip it more, as it warms up a little bit. It's the sign of any really good beer. Bill, when I'm on here with Ralph and we have guests on, I think the term dryness comes up in almost every single. It's like kind of the thread that runs through this series, is that the beers are dry and drinkable. Even when we're talking about a quadruple, the quads that we like tend to be drier quadruples. Even when we're talking about styles that intrinsically are a little bit sweeter, we like the drier versions of them. I mean, is that, to you, is that kind of across the board?
I think it is, yeah. And what is it about American Imperial Stouts that so often are thick and there's another classic word, cloying, which is just too sweet, too much. And then, it may at first taste like a piece of candy bar or something like that, but then after that, I just can't. I mean, I might be able to sip a little bit of it, but I can't really enjoy much of it. And that's just, that's the way I am about it.
Well, we get in danger on this series, especially with Ralph and I, when we get together, because it's kind of like a feedback loop of us kind of bashing pastry stouts.
Right.
Even though, as we've admitted, we've made a pastry stout. We made what I consider a very good example of one, Devil's Decadence, which had all those flavors and was a touch sweet. I think it was dry for the style of pastry stout. Anyway, I'm getting in the weeds here. But we tend to not love those beers because we think that they're a little one-dimensional. It reminds me a little more of fast food, where fast food hits you over the head with fat and salt. A lot of Imperial Stouts, a lot of American smoothie sours, they hit you over the head with sugar. It's gratifying in the first couple sips.
Right.
And it really does hit you with a lot of flavor, but is it one note? Can you go back to it? I mean, a lot of people would say yes, and that we're crazy. But right now, if you and you could look at some of the most popular pastry stouts out there on Untappd right now.
Right.
I'd kind of rather have this.
Oh, I would too.
And I've had a lot of them, and I kind of rather enjoy this.
I would too. But like I say, and again, you say it's a word that we overutilize, but drinkable, I don't know what other word to give it. I think that dryness allows you to enjoy more of it. And I want to be able to sip on a beer for a while rather than have one little bit and go, I'm full with 4 ounces.
Well, even though you said this beer didn't come acrid at all, it does have a hint of bitterness. And
it does. It definitely does.
And that's not a hop bitterness, that's a black malt bitterness.
No, it
right?
is.
And listen, this is the other thing that just drives me insane. How many people love espresso? How many people that are craft beer lovers, and because those kind of things overlap, pour over brews and things of that nature. They want to drink an espresso black. They don't want to add sugar. They don't want to add milk. Yet when they're going for their beer, they want all the sugar and all the over-the-top flavors, and they don't tend to enjoy some of the darker, deeper flavors and the bitterness and the blend of those multiple flavors layered on top of each other. Because, like I said, I'm getting caramel, I'm getting vanilla, but it's not sweet. I'm getting bitterness to balance out those flavors.
Agreed.
So I mean, once again, another word, balance.
Yeah, balance.
Some people say, what does that even mean? Well, what does balance mean to you, Bill?
Well, weighing one against the other, basically. So, bitterness versus sweetness, acidity versus softness or alkalinity. So, those are the things that balance means to me.
Yeah.
But you mentioned coffee. I've had plenty of espressos that were really smooth and soft. You can buy coffees that are extremely acidic and extremely smooth. I don't like that word too much either, but less acidic than the other coffees. So I think this falls in that area that makes me enjoy it more.
So real quick, we do mention that we do a Parade of Souls, which is our Imperial Stout, and I think early on we kind of developed that recipe together. That was one of the early recipes that I helped develop here when we got together to open this brewery. What were you trying to do with Parade of Souls, and when we're looking at the recipe year by year, what are you trying to do with that beer?
Well, again, it was to find some of the things that I find in this, a certain amount of roastiness without being acrid or overly bitter. Mm-hmm. That was one of the key things that I wanted to be able to. It had to taste like a stout. It had to have that roasted malt character.
Got to be a backbone to it.
Yeah, it had to have a backbone. I didn't want to taste just like a, soft dark beer. It needed to have some character to it, but I just didn't want the heavy the tannins is another word there that gives you that sort of dry sensation on your tongue that's a little harsh. That's one place that dry can be not good, tannins. But a little bit of tannins can be good. So just finding the balance in all of those, and that's what I was shooting for, what we were shooting for with Parade of Souls. I think we accomplished that.
Yeah, it's also interesting because the one other thing that people love in these crazy Imperial stouts is viscosity. Yeah. They love to see, you swirl the glass, and it taints.
It's like syrup.
It's almost, you have to scrub out the beer because it is just like molasses.
Right.
And that's another thing that I mean, once again, for one sip, it's nice. I mean, it's directly related to the sugar in a lot of ways, but that is not something that I'm going for when I'm looking for even an Imperial Stout or a 12% Imperial Stout, as I want there to be a pleasant mouthfeel and not a motor oil mouthfeel.
Exactly.
But some people, they just absolutely go gaga for it. It's like their favorite thing in the world. Listen, I really, really enjoyed this beer. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for sharing it. Because I enjoy it.
Because this is a beer that I had years ago. It is on my local, Total Wine and More shelf that I just haven't picked up in a while. It was recommended to me. I'm like, oh, wait, I did really enjoy that beer when I drank it in the past. Revisiting, I'm like, oh, yeah, this is why this is a really, really great example of the style. This is why it's another great, not readily available because you're not going to find it, I don't think, forgive me if I'm wrong, at your local grocery store. I think you're going to have to seek it out.
Probably not.
But it's also not so esoteric that you have to buy it from out of state or something. You should be able to find this in a good craft beer store, and it's just another great example of an amazing stout. We've done so many stouts and porters that, like I said, they're not the it beer, they're not the beer people are lining up for, they're not the pastry stout, but they're such good representation of the style. They're so flavorful, and they have so much to offer. So I highly recommend you picking up a Lion Stout this weekend. Please, this was a suggestion, so please, we've got a lot of suggestions, by the way, and they're coming in, a lot of coming at a time. We've gotten almost all of them. We're going to get to them eventually, but please keep the suggestions coming in. Please click on this video, like, subscribe, look at the other videos we're doing, talking about incredible other craft beer styles and different beers that we love and that obviously you love. And we'll see you next time on Old Favorite Friday. Cheers.
Cheers.